Hello, I'm a woman in my mid-50s. I have a younger brother who is 10 years younger than I am. That when he was born, I remember having him on my back, and I used to cook and study while my mom worked in the farm field. My family lived on a farm in the countryside, so we were not financially well off. Just as the elders in the old days valued their sons, our family also did a lot for my younger brother who was born late. My new younger brother had a good personality and was athletic, so he had a lot of friends. Wherever he went, he monopolized people's attention. I was a little quiet, so I was envious of such a younger brother. My brother followed me well and helped me with chores around the house. He was like a best friend to me. When that younger brother said he wanted to play baseball, I actively tried to persuade my parents. I wanted to somehow grant my brother's wish. My mother let out a deep sigh and said, "I also want to do everything Jonathan wants to do, but my family can't afford that." "Mom, I'll earn money too. I just need to get a job after I graduate from high school," and asked her to let my brother play baseball, which he liked so much. For talents, I was a junior in high school at that time, so I could get a full-time job after waiting for about a year. Additionally, I wanted to go to college and study trade-related subjects, but the more I thought that I should earn money quickly and take care of my younger brother. When my brother was able to play baseball, I loved it. I was happy to see my little brother playing like that. And right after graduating from high school, I got a job as a clerk at the company. When I started, I was just an ordinary office worker, but maybe it was because the company was small. My boss even entrusted me with bookkeeping work. I studied on my own what was necessary for accounting practice. I worked hard to adapt to my company. My younger brother played baseball diligently in the elementary school baseball team. It was a school in a rural area, so I didn't have many members, but thanks to his unique motor skills, my brother became the number 4 hitter and went to a middle school famous for baseball. Meanwhile, I changed my job, upgrading it to an accountant's office in a small city. It was a fairly large company, and the company recognized my previous bookkeeping experience, so I entered as an experienced accounting clerk. I didn't graduate from a commercial school, but my self-studying helped me a lot. Even though my pay was increased, I had to spend a lot of money on my brother, so things didn't get better at home financially. Still, my parents were very happy when I saved whatever I could and gave them some spending money. When I saw my parents looking relieved, I thought that I wanted to make more money and make things more comfortable for them. After my younger brother entered a high school famous for baseball, I wanted to be of more help, so I looked for another company. Then an accountant called me. "You know, I'm moving to a big company next month, right? They say they are looking for someone with accounting experience. I will recommend you, so why don't you go for an interview?" He knew my family's financial situation, so I told him I would. I prepared hard and went to the interview, and I was notified of being hired. Since the company was bigger, there were more rules and work pressure, but I was fine with everything. My brother told me, I know you are working hard because of me. Still, please take care of your health and work. I'll succeed and make you happy. Thank you for the words. I'll take good care of my health, so you work hard too. We comforted each other, and after a few months of working in the company, I met my husband. He was working in the planning team. He came to the accounting department because the receipt processing was done incorrectly. That's when he met me. My husband was intelligent, who went to a good university and studied a lot. I was drawn to those aspects of my husband's. He said he liked me because I took care of him well, like his mother. He was a bit childlike, but I thought it was because he was only studying and didn't know much about... I don't know much about the world. Then one day, my husband proposed to me. I don't think I'll ever meet someone like you, Liza, who takes good care of me. Let's get married, huh? I'll make you happy. But Henry, don't your parents say anything about me at home? Like your family is rich, but my family just farms. It's okay. As for my mom, she's okay if a woman is good to me. So my husband and I went to greet each other's parents. When I went to my husband's house, I was worried and nervous, but his parents treated me more comfortably than I expected, so I was very relieved. My parents also liked my husband, but my younger brother wasn't very keen on Henry. I have nothing to say if you say you like him, but he looks somewhat immature. Then my mother interrupted, saying, "Hey, if your sister does something wrong, she'll grow old while only looking after you. She should get married when there is a good person." Then my brother wished me well, and they got married without much conflict. Although we lived close to my in-laws and my mother-in-law often called me. I tried not to be stressed. My mother-in-law tried not to show it, but she did occasionally appear to belittle me or my family. My mother gave me a luxury brand scarf from my mother-in-law, and even then she asked, "Isn't this fake?" I guess I would know if I go to a department store and ask, wouldn't I? She blatantly said to my face. It broke my heart to think of my mother, who would have saved her money to buy it. Anyway, there were a few times when she said things like that, but I let it pass, thinking her personality was honest, so she was direct. It was a little over a year after we got married when I got a call from my mother saying that my brother had seriously injured his shoulder and he had to go to a university hospital in the capital to have an operation. I was so worried that I followed him. The doctor said it would take a while for him to rehabilitate after his surgery. To my brother, soon to be a senior in high school, was at the most important time in his baseball life. Thus, he was very depressed because of his injuries. So while he was hospitalized after surgery, I stayed by his side and took care of him. But when I came back home, my husband's attitude was a little strange. Even when I asked if he had a good meal or if anything happened at work, he didn't answer or even look at me. When I woke up in the morning, he had already gone to work. I thought, did something happen at the company? Without thinking, I went to the bank. However, the balance in our checking account was completely gone. My husband and I had a joint checking account where my husband would deposit our monthly living expenses from his salary. So I called my husband right away. But he said, if you like your brother so much, why didn't you live with your brother and marry me instead? How could you stay out for several days with your younger brother? You mean you took away all your living expenses money out of your checking account just because of that? And right now my brother is sick from surgery, and he is depressed because he is afraid that he might not be able to play baseball. So as his sister, can I do at least that? Anyway, I won't pay for the living expenses if you neglect me. And don't call the company about this. Then he just hung up on me. I was so dumbfounded that I couldn't help but get money out of my emergency savings account. When I came home from shopping, I got a call from my mother-in-law. She told me to come to her house right away. If you married our Henry, you should put all your energy into taking care of him. How could you stay so many days with your younger brother? But then who will cook and care for our Henry? I didn't say anything because I was told that you take good care of him, so I approved your marriage. It has only been just a year since you got married, but if you already are behaving like that, then I won't put up with it. Mother, I've never been away from home before, and this time my younger brother had major surgery. That's it. And I'm not his maid. I'm his wife. When I said that, my mother-in-law's voice became harsh. How dare you talk back to me like that? This is how you show that you are really so uneducated. And she became angry that I was just amazed at the ridiculous situation. Yes, you. After watching for a while, it seems like you always argue with your husband too. A woman can't do that. And a maid? It's good you brought it up. Do you work as much as a maid? Even in the morning, when Henry wakes up, you barely wake up. My mother-in-law seemed to think of me completely as their housekeeper. I wondered if I should put up with all this for just nursing my younger brother for a few days. No matter how much I thought about it, I couldn't understand it. But in a way, she might think that I was only taking care of my younger brother, so I apologized and came home. My husband came home that evening and handed out an envelope of money for a monthly living expenses. Since you apologized this time, I'll make an exception for you. But please don't let this happen in the future, okay? He shouted again. I thought he must have felt hurt because it was the first time I'd ever been away from home for a long time. However, even after that, my husband would cut off our living expenses if I didn't suit him, and later he would confiscate my credit card as well. Whenever that happened, my mother-in-law called me and said, "Since you didn't learn anything and didn't grow up watching any good examples, I don't know where to start teaching you." She insulted me. Then my body became too heavy, and there were many days when I couldn't eat anything. So when I went to the hospital and I was told I was 6 weeks pregnant, when I heard that I was pregnant, I wasn't happy at all. Still, the child came to me and I told myself that I couldn't be negative about it, so I informed my husband of the pregnancy that night. Oh yeah. Okay, but you better not use the pregnancy as your excuse for not taking care of the house chores properly and just go to your parents' house, okay? If you do that, I won't put up with it. I wondered why my husband married me. Then when he proposed to me, I remembered when he said that he didn't think he would meet another person who would take care of him as much as I did. My husband was looking for someone who would replace his mother. I got married without knowing that. I started having regrets about my marriage. Then my husband's younger brother brought home a woman to marry. My mother-in-law was all smiles the whole time and held her hand and said loudly as if for me to hear her, "You graduated from a good university and your parents are great, so even your graceful sitting posture is different." I just quietly peeled the fruit in the kitchen and offered it to them. They didn't seem to pay any attention to me. They ate, laughed, and talked among themselves, but they didn't care where I was or what I was doing. Then, I finally knew for sure how they thought of me at their wedding. I wore a long dress that day for the wedding, but my mother-in-law forced me to clean up after the guests in the wedding reception hall. I was trying to be careful not to soil my dress, which kept me fully occupied. When I finally caught up and tried to take a breath, then she ordered me to refill drinks and so forth, even when there were other servers. Her tea of the reception was a buffet style, but how could she make me serve the guests? Nevertheless, I continued serving and stopped for a minute to look up to find my in-laws all gathered together eating. My husband was among them. Just when the groom and bride entered the reception hall, they just passed me quickly and went to their family to greet them, ignoring me. I realized that I was just this household's helper and nothing more. I didn't have anywhere to sit, so I had to stand the whole time. As a result, I had overexerted myself that I ached all over my body, so I was going to talk to my husband and ask him to go home. My husband looked excited and was happily drinking among his relatives. "Honey, let's go home. My body feels strange." "Okay, if you're sick, go home alone." My husband was preoccupied with other people as if he had nothing to do with me. I finally had to go home alone that night. I miscarried our baby. I kept crying because no one welcomed me nor seemed to want this baby, so I felt guilty that I lost our baby. My husband nor my mother-in-law called me, not even once. A few days later, when my body was in a better condition, I went to my husband's work and asked him for a divorce. "Okay, but don't come to see me this suddenly. When I look at you, you seem like a person who is waiting to embarrass me in front of others. It's the first time you're seeing me after I went to my parents' house without saying anything. So is that the only thing you have to say? Then what should I say? Who told you to go? Oh, you have a very strange personality." Then he jumped up and went out of the coffee shop. So when I got home, I got another call from my mother-in-law. It wasn't that our Henry did anything wrong, and since it was because you left on your own, you know you have to pay him the alimony, right? Besides, the child was miscarried, so that says everything. You left on your own, so I'll sue you for money and get it all. Do you understand? She said it almost intimidatingly. The two of them had no interest to find out what happened to our baby nor how I was. At that time, at the age of 31, it was a big thing for a woman to decide on getting divorced, so my mother-in-law's such a threat felt scary to me. I still felt like I couldn't live with my husband anymore. My parents told me that they understood me and borrowed money from here and there to pay alimony by combining the money I had. I got divorced by paying the alimony my husband and my mother-in-law demanded. Now that I think about it, if I had the ability back then, I guess I could have hired a lawyer and held them accountable. I didn't even dare to do that at that time, so even after the divorce, I stayed at home for a long time. When I went outside, everyone seemed to be looking at me and whispering. I didn't even dare to go out and get a job. Meanwhile, my brother, who was studying abroad in Japan, came home during vacation. My younger brother injured his shoulder, and the injury kept getting worse. So he quit baseball and took a second chance and went to Japan to study. Study because he couldn't get help from home. Japan was chosen because international students could work part-time. Another reason was because he could speak the language. When my brother saw me just staying at home, he asked me if I would start a business with him. Business? What kind of business could we do? There were quite a few things that the woman here would like. They weren't that expensive, same with the clothes. Let's just import a little bit and sell them. That was how I started doing a small import business with my brother. That was the beginning of the internet shopping mall I operate now. I mainly imported things young mothers or working women would like and sent the list to my brother. Then he would source the items to ship them to me. I had a lot of fun doing business like that. Since I was originally interested in the trading side, I decided to try importing formally. My younger brother was also studying business management in Japan, which was very helpful. A few years later, my younger brother served in the military, and after graduating, with the money we've saved, we started a small company. I was able to start smoothly because of the connections my younger brother made in Japan. We then developed further and sourced high-end products that women would like in Europe. Soap and small daily necessities were also imported from many countries. As the company grew little by little, I met a man again and got remarried. My husband was an executive at a mid-sized company. And as more and more people flocked online, we also opened an online shopping mall. I worked hard with my younger brother, and after 15 years, I became the CEO of a pretty sizable business. Of course, before that, my brother and I were joint owners, but it was a company with at most 5 employees. Back then, while running an online shopping mall, our business had more than 20 employees. It may be funny to say that I was the president of a company with only 20 employees, but it was a very emotional thing for me. When I was unable to do anything, my younger brother asked me to work with him, which helped me to become a productive and proud member of society. In the meantime, I also got a beautiful daughter. Then, I was invited to a seminar on female entrepreneurs and gave a short lecture. After the lecture that day, after lunch, my husband's company was nearby, so I decided to drop by briefly. At that time, my husband's company was hiring experienced employees. When I entered the company, several people sat in chairs waiting for the interview. I didn't want to disturb them, so I quietly turned around to leave. But then someone grabbed me from behind. When I looked behind, it was my ex-husband. You forget the person you hit, but you can't forget the person who hit you. My feelings from the past come to mind and they trembled. However, that person talked to me so nonchalantly as if nothing happened. It's been a while since we have seen each other. What are you doing here? In the meantime, he seemed somewhat desperate looking in his face. Meanwhile, an employee came out and announced, "Mr. Henry Smith, you have to go in for an interview next." Then my ex-husband let me go and went in for an interview. He reminded me of things that happened at my in-laws' house before. I gritted my teeth. The next day, my ex-husband came to see me and asked if I knew anyone at the company. He begged me to give a good recommendation for him. It turned out that he had been laid off from the company and had been unemployed for several years. He said that his remarried wife also went to live with her parents. "Do you think I'm still your helper?" I said coldly, but he grabbed me. "I'm asking you nicely. Please help me just once, okay? Asking you to let go of me and leave." I refused. I was in no position to ask anyone for his job, but my ex-husband was persistent. He kept calling me, so I blocked his call, but he came by my work again. "I told you not to come because I have nothing to do with you. If you keep doing this, I'll call the police." Then my ex-husband looked at me and left the office. But the problem got bigger. This time, he brought his mom with him. Before, if there was anything wrong with me, he called his mom and told her everything. It seemed he still hadn't broken that habit. My ex-mother-in-law still acted arrogantly in front of me. "Looking at you, you look like you've made it somewhat. But how could you change so completely? What was your position in my house before? Think about how you can act this way now." Then my husband, who happened to be there, came into my office and shouted, "I was just being patient, but listening to you, you're being too much." She's now my wife. She has nothing to do with you all, and I know about you because she told me, but you treated her like your maid. And if she didn't cater to your son, you treated her less than a human being. If you're a decent human being, you couldn't be like that. When she miscarried her baby, you never even cared to ask how she was. But why are you here now asking for her help to get your job? At Mr. Smith, you remember me, right? I interviewed you. Then the faces of my ex-husband and my mother-in-law turned white in shock. My ex-husband was so bewildered that he didn't know what to do. "No, I didn't mean that. I just wanted to see if anyone knew her because she was doing well." So I yelled at him, "Why would you ask me? If you are capable, won't you get hired? If you come to me one more time in the future, I'll get a restraining order from the court. So hurry up and get out of here with your beloved mother." Then my ex-mother-in-law said to me, "Hey, looks like I made a big mistake. I was just asking for a good reference for my son, but I hope there are no misunderstandings." who would ask for a good reference the way you ask. Do you think that makes sense? How could I change so completely? So how could I not change? You never treated me like your family and threatened me if I didn't take care of your son the way you want. Think about what you did. In the first place, you just wanted a worker and made me marry him. But now, why are you talking about something else? Art, these two are going out, so get them out quickly and don't let these people into this company anymore. My ex-husband and mother-in-law could not speak anymore and were taken away. I didn't want to go that far in front of my current husband, but I got angry at their shameless attitude. I was very grateful to my husband for being by my side. How did I get to meet such a nice person? My ex-husband eventually failed to get a position at the company. Even if it was not for that incident, he did very poorly in his interview. I still work with my brother, and our child is growing up well. I'm also doing well with my husband. I don't know what happened to my ex-in-laws after that time. They probably live well somewhere. When I didn't know anything, I used to blame my in-laws, but as time passed by, I got to look at myself going through heartbreaking things, doing business with my brother, going through more things than before. When I was a little stronger, I met my current husband. If I had been a little stronger back then, I wouldn't have met such people. I'm trying to take better care of myself and live doing my best. I hope everyone is happy and healthy, and whatever you're doing, all will go well. Please cheer for me and write your comments of wisdom in the comment section. Pressing like and subscription is a big help to me. Have a wonderful day.